Hello and welcome to Baseball Barbacast, the only baseball podcast in the world hotter than the guy who got rid of the bees at Chase Field. I'm Jake Mintz, that's Jordan Shusterman, and that gentleman was disconcertingly attractive.
Yeah, man, he's a good-looking gentleman, and that's obviously what you're here to listen to us talk about. We made you wait. We could not just listen. This was the most obvious Baseball Barbacast topic of all time. But unfortunately, you're going to have to wait till the end when we get to the good, the bad, the Uggla. Yes, it will be Uggla. Although it was, I guess, both good and bad. It will be one of our Ugglas this week. But before we get to the good, the bad, and the Uggla later, we do have some other topics we definitely want to get to on this Friday. We're going to play a little bit of a game we did last year, a standings legitimacy draft. We'll explain the rules of that in a little bit. But Jake, let's begin with a team that has won 10 baseball games in a row. That is something that deserves to be talked about at the start of any baseball podcast, and that is your Minnesota Twins. Yes, Jake, this is a team you have believed very strongly in from the beginning of the season. We both picked them to win the division. I think I was a little bit more skeptical than you. After their cold start, I was a little bit worried considering their entire lineup was hitting 150. But look at them now. They have won 10 in a row. Now, have the 10 games been 7 of them against the White Sox? And
they all count the same, baby.
Perhaps. Are they still in 4th place in the suddenly loaded AL Central? Yes. However, a W10 is a W10, so take it away.
We don't do strength of schedule around these parts, okay? Wins are wins, and it's hard to sweep anybody, except for the White Sox. That's actually not too hard, and they did do that twice. It's a reminder that the Twins, like they're not bad. Like they're pretty good. And so beating bad teams 10 games in a row is a thing that good teams do. And the Twins are doing it. This is how you zoom up those old standings. You did mention that they're still in 4th. That doesn't matter right now, as we will get to later on in the show. We talk about the standings. But yes, the Twins have gotten their mojo back. Most importantly, they're throwing sausages at one another, and everyone seems happier up in Minnesota, except for the fact that fans with Comcast can't watch the games.
Yeah, well, that's probably its own podcast, and maybe we'll get into that as we get more details of that. But how did they do this? Right? Yes, they beat up on the White Sox and they beat up on the Angels, but I do think it's worth, again, a W10. It's not just how they did it, but I do think a closer look at the Twins is deserved. I mean, one bit of bad news besides the cable mess is that Byron Buxton left the game injured again. However, Byron Buxton was not, he hadn't been bad. Like he's got a league average OPS plus, but 32 strikeouts to 2 walks. He was playing some good defense to center field, which was nice, but he wasn't exactly driving this offense, right? So who has been driving this offense and what have you been excited about on the mound?
Ryan Jeffers and Edouard Julien have been driving this offense. Jeffers, particularly over this winning streak, he is hitting 382, 476, 676, which
pretty good.
Is good. Pretty good, especially for a catcher. Edouard Julien, 3 homers over the stretch. And then the fun one is Carlos Santana, who
looked.
I proclaimed cooked not 2 weeks ago, and I guess he listens to the show because he has been en fuego since I said that. He's
basically doubled. Okay, on April 24th, in the midst of the White Sox mop, his OPS had fallen to 407. And since then, it has launched 200 points up to a staggering 604. But listen, Carlos Santana to me is not, it's good. He's great vibes and he'll do his thing. I want to talk about Jose Miranda and Trevor Larnach. Trevor Larnach is someone, he was a first round pick, and they've had so many of these, lefty outfielders. Wallner completely fell on his face. He's back in AAA. But you have enough of these talented guys, and probably 1 or 2 of them are going to going to actually hit. And some of them haven't, and some of them have. And Larnach is I think less of a surprise to me because I've just wanted to see him get the playing time. Miranda's a much more interesting one. I mean, this guy was awesome in 2022. He was just injured, really injured, and really bad last season, to the point where I was like, where does this guy fit? Because we said, okay, well, he's a third baseman, sort of. He's a first baseman, sort of. The defense isn't great. And when Royce Lewis breaks out, I'm like, where is there room for Jose Miranda on this team? And because Royce Lewis got hurt again, here's Jose Miranda playing third base every day. And he's raking, which is what he always did in the minor leagues and what he did in 2022. And that's like not someone I was really counting on as being a big part of this Twins offense. And credit to him for being that so far over the last couple of weeks.
This Twins offense is, in some ways, I don't want to say it's quantity over quality, but there are just so many players in this organization on the offensive side who are talented, and there are only so many spots for all of them to play. And I think it should not surprise us that some of them are raking, right? They like that Matt Wallner was bad and got sent down. That's fine because there are so many other talented guys there who can pick up the slack. What about on the pitching side, Jordan? What do you like about the Twins?
Yeah, something I noticed, I think I mentioned this on the podcast, but what's really exciting and encouraging about them is the bullpen and the fact that they just got Yohan Duran back, and he sure looked like Yohan Duran. He is the pitcher we've said many times on the show. He is the pitcher when you watch him, you think, how has anybody ever recorded a hit against this person ever? Like, it was truly more than I think any other pitcher that I watched, just kind of viscerally. But he joins a just spectacularly anonymous bullpen that is getting the job done. Whatever mojo the Rays had, and even the Brewers, if they've kind of started to scuffle in the bullpen to some degree, whatever magic they were cooking, it's going to Minnesota right now, because Brock Stewart and Steven Okert and Cole Sands and Jay Jackson, who's got a big league deal late, and Griffin Jacks, these guys have held. Cody Funderburk, yes, that's a real person.
He hasn't been. Cody Funderburk has scuffled a little bit, but boy, oh boy, do I want him to be good. So come October, we can. And who's that? The bullpen door opens. Here comes Funderburk.
Right. That's basically what we had with the Gink, right? He could be this year's Ginkle. But man, Cole Sands, right? I mean, it's some of these guys, and I listen. I know a lot of it's, but the focus is still the important part is still going to be what you're getting from the rotation from Joe Ryan, Bailey Ober, and Chris Paddock in particular, who's not been awesome, and that was one I think we were both a little bit skeptical of. But Pablo Lopez, I'm not remotely concerned about. I know his ERA is closer to 5, but him and Joe Ryan, I think, have both been really good. Joe Ryan's been throwing harder, but throwing fewer fastballs, and has found a lot of success with that approach. And so, yeah, I just like this pitching staff, and I already did, and the offense has really come around.
Chris Paddock has looked much better his last 2 starts, which is a great reminder that if you only pitch against the Angels and the White Sox, you can get a lot of outs in this league.
After allowing 9 runs to the Orioles. So
I don't think too hard about it. Yeah. Let's move on from the Minnesota Twins. Mm-hmm. And I want to briefly talk about a couple little nuggets here. The Rays City Connect uniforms released this week.
Yeah.
To much aplomb. They are outstanding. They are wonderful. They are whimsical. They are goofy. They are considered. They are intentional. They are weird. And most importantly, they look good.
Yes. I would say that as far as the whimsy and the skateboarding ray, like, this is something.
For people who haven't seen it,
yes,
can you please describe what you mean when you say skateboarding Ray? It's not Ray Romano.
No, although that would really be something if someone wants to make that happen. So it seems to be a reference to skate culture in Tampa. I learned a lot about Tampa in this, which is the point, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the point. This is a city that, like, this is an opportunity as a Major League Baseball city to actually teach the Major League Baseball world, who is, no matter what team releases their City Connects, everybody has an opinion. And so this is a chance to be like, okay, fine, here you go. Here's this is why the bridge is important to us. This is why skate culture is important to us. This is why these colors are important to us. This is why the name Tampa Bay is important to us. Have that on our jerseys. All these things. It was done well, but most importantly, it's creative and it's fun.
That's how I learned about the subway, like the Mets
You're like,
jerseys.
oh,
I wasn't. There's a
that's good.
7 train.
Yes, I know. It goes all the way out. There's actually other boroughs. They connect to each other. Yes, it's wild. But that's what I love about this. And the skateboarding Ray, which it says on the website, the skating Ray, which again, if you somehow haven't seen this by now, I've already ordered a hat and it should be delivered later today, so I'll be wearing it on the next show. It is a Ray, like looks like the old Tampa Bay Devil Ray. It's a Ray, but it is essentially gripping a skateboard, and kind of soaring through the air on its skateboard. It says the skating Ray represents. This is still fascinating to me. This is what it says in the official City Connect page. The skating Ray represents the intrinsic link between skateboarding and baseball. Sure. A tribute to the hard work and grit it takes to land a stale fish or square up 100-mile-per-hour fastball. Again, I don't have any. I've never skateboarded in my life. My skateboarding experience is entirely rooted in Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4. Which I immediately booted up upon seeing this skateboarding Ray because I was just so inspired. But man, it is. But with the colors, we got the Pelican in there, we got the bridge in there, we got Yandy Diaz who just looks good in a uniform on there, like perfect model for these unis. It's great. It's everything about it is great.
He looks like a mannequin. A stale fish, which is the name of this trick.
Yes.
Is when you grip the underside of the board, I believe, with your right hand as you're moving to the left,
which is
kind of under yourself.
Yes.
And that is the trick that the Ray is doing,
exactly.
which is a joke in and of itself, that it is a stale fish. Ha ha ha.
It's
These
so
rule. I don't. At first, I was skeptical because I'm just kind of sick of the dark gray.
Yes,
motif.
We have had a lot of that. Yeah.
But they don't look like that. They're kind of almost a sparklier color than the gunpowder grays that we've gotten.
Yes.
And there are just so many alternate logos that come with this. There's the skating Ray, there's the bridge Ray, there's the palm tree one, there's a pelican logo.
Yeah.
I
love
a manatee.
How much there's so much. There's so much going on and they really went for it. They really went for it. And it's and I gotta say, now, this was scheduled to be coming out on Monday, no matter what. However, coming off getting swept by the White Sox, this was an incredible both opportunity and risk to either be like, if they released some absolute stinkers, it would have been a tough day at the office for Rays Social. Instead, it was like, what sweep against the White Sox? Look at these sick unis. We're chilling. All is well, and it worked. So good for them. I just love the creativity. It's I would love to see teams get more. And honestly, it just makes the teams that have gone so safe with it look so silly. It's like, what a waste. Like, come on. And credit to ownership, right? Like this is clearly Stu Sternberg was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's get weird.
Congratulations to fraternity houses all across the Sunshine State as well. Everything that is being sold as a part of this, you will be seeing at many a USF Darty over the coming years.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I will say it's quite a response to some of the City Connects and alternates that the Marlins have, come out that have been colorful. Oh no, we gotta capture some of these frat bro audience as well. And I think they will be successful with that.
People might not be packing the stadiums down there in Florida, but frat bros are wearing jerseys to get drunk during the daytime. And that's what it's all about. 2 more topics before we do our standings draft. Mike Trout is going to need surgery on his knee. The video of him addressing the media after the news came out was really interesting, very emotional. Mike Trout was. I think it's so sad and unfortunate. Again, there are much larger problems on this planet than a $400 million person who's still getting paid. I get that. However, to rewatch Ken Griffey Jr.'s 30s in real time is a bummer because Mike Trout was such a special thing that we thought was going to live forever in his 20s. And maybe I'm reading too much into this, but it makes me feel mortal, right? Time does pass. And Mike Trout, we've reached a point now where it's the narrative. He is injury prone. He is susceptible to this.
Yes.
And for that to at all overshadow what he has accomplished on the baseball field is so unfortunate.
Yeah, well, and I wouldn't go that far, but I do agree that it's a shame. I mean, he was the best player ever through age 24, age 25, age 26, age 27. Like, we were watching greatness, and we still have been watching greatness. He's still leading the league in home runs this year. You know, he goes down with this injury, and we've seen a version of him that started to find his kind of offensive game again to some degree. But yeah, it's just every passing injury over the last few years has made us wonder, will we ever see that peak again? And this year he showed us, oh yeah, I'm still in there. But it just sucks. And I want to keep it that focus narrow. You know, I was disappointed to see, you know, what Ken Rosenthal wrote about, you know, expanding it again to, oh, see, now he's never going to get out of Anaheim because he's injured and they'll never trade him. And it's like, listen, it's not about that. That's a separate conversation. What this is about is Mike Trout, the baseball player who time after time over the last 4 years has been taken off the field. And no matter who he's playing for and what his team records and all the context and how much he's making and what his trade value, I don't care about any of that. Watching Mike Trout has been a privilege for us as baseball fans who were born in 1995 and have been doing this since essentially he started. And if we've said it a few times, but if this is what we're going to keep dealing with, it is really, really unfortunate. And I feel bad for him. And I hope it isn't season ending. I was kind of surprised. I guess torn meniscus is not as bad as it sounds. I mean, it is bad, but
sounds
in theory,
terrible.
He could come back. Yeah. Like, this is, can I just say, like, I mean, this is kind of a minute thing. Like, I kind of can't believe he still only played center field. Like, I know he's DH'd more, but like, is he still going to go back out there in center in September? I hope, but it's like, it's kind of shocking. He's still, you know, 93rd percentile sprint speed. So he's a freak. And I hope, because I've always said that when Mike Trout's playing left, that's when I'm going to start feeling old.
Nolan Shanuel, bad news, buddy. Bryce Harper's playing first in Philly. We just got to get Trouty over there. Teach him first
Trout
base.
They were just there, right? Trout and they just played the Phillies. I'm sure Harper was like, hey man, first base, great. It's not so bad.
You get a guy with a lot of range, you don't have to do anything. Just run to the bag, catch the ball. No, it's a lot harder than that. Tell him watch. Yeah. I briefly would like to talk about Stephen A. Smith of ESPN, who went on a little rant piece about Mike Trout and how he spent the entire rant in this register. He was up here the whole time. Yeah, which is how you know someone is lying too, right? I didn't take the cookie from the cookie jar.
Well, the lying is, again, this is a concept we've talked about when people get very mad about takes shared on television, which is the point, right?
That's the point.
And when you watch Stephen A. and, you know, Mad Dog and some of these people say things, and this is very different than Mad Dog, right? But it's, in some ways, it's exactly the same. Okay.
I have my own issues with Mad Dog. Mad Dog watches ball.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We don't necessarily agree with what he believes when he watches ball, but in theory, he is watching more ball than we know Stephen A. Smith is, which is just
1000%. And that's what I want to say. Again, theme of the show, multiple things can be true. Stephen A. Smith going on a rant about how baseball players getting injured is fake news because there's no contact and it's not the UFC or football is obviously silly. It is designed to piss you off. It is designed to get you too engaged. And that is why Stephen A. Smith is the GOAT at this. He is the best there ever was when it comes to putting him in front of a microphone or a camera, giving him a topic for 2 minutes and letting him cook. Okay? That is true. That's all true. And so when you see this, if you're not an Angels fan, right? Or a professional baseball player, I hope that you have the perspective to see it and be like, this is dumb. This is unfortunate, but this is stupid. At the same time, Stephen A. Smith makes a lot of money because he is influential. People watch him. People listen to him.
Yes.
Sports takes derive from these platforms, from the people at the top. And it is disappointing that he has chosen that platform to try and offer a very surface level take. That is, there are now people who saw this and be like, yeah, why are these baseball players getting hurt? Mike Trout doesn't win it bad enough, right?
Yeah, I mean, that is, I guess the problem. I mean, I think as baseball fans, we want to stand up and say, no, that's wrong. No, this is misguided. No, that's Mike Trout. Doesn't deserve this hate. And that's right. It's good to stand up for our sport, and that's fine. Stand up for our players, that's fine. But it's just so patently absurd. I mean, the take is wild on its own, right? But to share it at a time when injuries are just out of control in baseball is so funny. And there's no way Stephen A. Smith has any idea that Tristan Casas, punctured a rib or whatever, because he was swinging too hard. And Cody Bellinger has a fractured his rib. There's all kinds of injuries, let alone, of course, all
he
the arm
doesn't
injuries.
know who Spencer Strider is.
Of course, right. So it's like, that's the thing. Every additional second you spend that we spend on this podcast, we have taken the bait. We have failed, but we are here to say it's all right. It's move on.
We had to
his
talk about
opinion
Bruno.
Is so not valuable in this context.
When it comes to this,
it doesn't need to be.
Yeah, 100%. One more thing before we do the standings draft. I just want to briefly say, Baltimore Orioles take it 3 out of 4 from the Yankees at home. Big series. The park was electric. Brendan Cuddy wrote a really great piece about Yankees fans no longer ruling Camden Yards and how Orioles fans are trying to take Camden Yards back from the Yankees fans. You take the train down because it's pretty accessible. Amtrak is no free ads. Pretty great.
And they're doing it. They're just they're taking the train. They're just going to see the Sixers and the Knicks.
That is the thing. The same type of person that would take the train down from Baltimore to cheer on the Yankees against the O's feels very similar to the type of person who would take the train down to yell at Joel Embiid. Maybe not as rich as the person who can afford playoff tickets in the NBA, but same level of passion. Big series for the Birds. It was good to be at those first 2 games. These are the best 2 teams in the division. I don't think it's close. They will play many more times this year, and I'm excited to watch all those games.
They are in Baltimore the last series of the first half, basically going into the All-Star break, is when the Yankees are in Baltimore again. So we will see that, but I agree with you about those teams at the top of the division, which is a good transition to our standings draft that we will now conduct, Jake. Here is how this works. We did this last year around this same time, and I referred to it as the standings legitimacy draft because of how this will be scored. Essentially, the idea is, as we move into May, we can no longer shrug and say, oh, it's April, because it's not. It's May. We have a month of games in the books, and teams have told us we've learned things about these teams. And as a way to kind of communicate how much we believe what these teams have told us so far, we are going to draft the teams in the order of essentially how much we believe in their current place in the standings. The way we are going to score it is if your team is in the place that they currently are in at the end of the season, you receive 0 points for that team. As such, we are trying to score as low as possible. This is standings golf. We would like to have as few points as possible at the end of this. On the flip side, for example, if I were to select the Houston Astros, who are currently in 4th place in the American League West, and they finish in 1st place in the American League West, which is not looking very likely right now, but it's, I guess, very possible, that would be 3 points on my docket because they will have moved up 3 spots. With all that said, we are going to move through these pretty quickly, and I am excited. Jake, you can have the first pick here. We're going to keep track of this, and we will maybe we'll check in on it later in the season. But hopefully people understand the concept. And why don't you take it away with your first pick in the standings legitimacy draft?
If the whole point of this exercise is to score as few points as possible, there is no better pick to start this off than the Chicago White Sox, who have scored the fewest points in the Major League Baseball. They are my first pick. They are in 5th place in the American League Central, and I feel very supremely confident that that is where they will finish the year.
Yes, and I will just follow that up quickly by selecting the Colorado Rockies in fifth place in the National League West. That will be my first selection.
That I thought about that pick.
yeah.
And it's a good one. With my second pick, I will take the Los Angeles Dog Hairs, who are in first place in the NL West. And I like them to remain there for quite a while.
All right. That is perfectly reasonable. I am going to take the Miami Marlins at this point as the last place team in the NL East. I know when we started the year, we thought it was going to be the Nationals, but I think at this point they've just dug themselves quite a hole. I know they just swept the Rockies. I'm taking the Rockies and Marlins with my first pick, but I'm keeping the Marlins in last place here.
I will keep things positive and select the Atlanta Braves atop the NL East. I think the Braves are going to win the NL East every year until we die. Actually, that's just how I feel.
That is a good one. I then am going to take the Phillies in second. I think that feels like a pretty safe bet, especially with the Braves in first off the board. So I will take them next.
I will stay in the NL East, and I will take the Washington Nationals in fourth. This team is so definitively better than the Marlins and also so definitively worse than the Mets that I really struggle to envision them finishing third or fifth. They just they mopped the Marlins and took 1 out of 3 from Texas. They're not better than the Mets. I don't think they've played yet.
Good question.
The Mets yet?
I can check that. But so now the question becomes, I totally agree with you. So now the question becomes, should I just take the Mets here? I feel like probably, Do you
think there's a higher chance the Mets finish above the Phillies for second or below the Nats for fourth?
I think the Mets and Nats are actually close. No, I'm just taking the Mets here. I'm not going to overthink it just because I'm not totally settled on who I'm going with next. So I'll take the Mets. So the NL East is off the board.
The entire NL East is off the board. No teams have been selected from the AL West, NL Central, or AL East, which is just
okay. All right, you're up.
Okay, there's a shift here. I think we have now done all the obvious ones, and now we are drafting kind of just to be close.
We're looking for 1 point and less now at this point.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the Yankees.
Okay. All right. Yep.
In second place.
Okay.
That's going to be my pick.
I will take the Orioles then. But I feel pretty good about now. I think it's going to really get interesting here. But okay, so the Orioles and the Yankees are both off the board. Okay, who are you going with next?
I will take the Pittsburgh Pirates in fifth place in the NL Central. I want to believe. I want to believe, but Jordan, I don't. This offense has been so anemic, so punchless, so downright embarrassing over the last 2 weeks. A year ago, it took them longer to tumble down from their temporary perch. This year, there have been no such games. Paul Skeens is only one man, and he is not hitting as he once did in college. So I'll take the Pirates.
Okay, I'm going to take the Giants in third. There are a few third place teams that I'm eyeing here, but I think I'm going to take them in third. I feel like I've been more bullish on them. I am worried about Arizona. I will say that. And so this is maybe a hedge against them. So maybe I should just be taking Arizona in fourth, but I'm going to take the Giants in third here.
I'm now going to take the Los Angeles Angels in fifth place in the American League West.
Yeah.
I think Oakland is definitely better than them. And
they might be
without Trout.
Yeah,
no
they
Trout.
Might be. Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. And remember, Oakland is in third right now. So if Oakland was in fourth, they would have been a much earlier pick. But okay, that's fine. Okay, so only one last place team currently still exists on the board, and that is the Tampa Bay Rays. I'm not going to take them. I'm going to stay in the middle here. And I am going to I think I have to just stick in the NL West. I'm going to take Arizona in fourth. I don't know. The Centrals are so, which is what we expected, but the Centrals are just so hard to figure out. So I will take Arizona in fourth here. I don't feel awesome about it, but we'll go with it.
I'm going to take the St. Louis Cardinals in fourth place in the NL Central. I have been low on them since the jump.
All right.
And Jordan has stood on that ship. He's stayed there.
Okay.
It turns out if you build your whole rotation out of 30-year-olds, 35-year-olds, it's not the best idea. I just don't think the Cardinals. I think they could finish in third, totally, but I'm not worried about them winning the division.
Yes, that's fine. And so to that point, I think I am going to take Cincinnati here and third for sort of the same reason. I don't think they are. I think they could absolutely finish in third. I think they could finish in second. But again, these middle teams are between them and Detroit, but I'll take Cincinnati here next.
I'm going to take a safe pick here, and that is the Texas Rangers in second place.
Yeah.
Because the Rangers could finish in first. They could finish in second. They could finish in third. They will not finish in fourth.
Right.
That is not going to happen.
We're looking for 1 point and less here, and I think that's a good one.
Bingo. So I'm going to go with the Rangers. They've kind of underperformed for me so far this season, and still they're in second place.
Yes. And because of that, just looking for teams that I feel like 1 point or less, I think I will take the Tigers next. But
in what place?
Central in third place. Tigers are in third place, and I will take them there.
Yeah, because again, you can't. They're probably not going to win the division, and the White Sox give you a floor. You can't go below the White Sox.
And it's like, right, with Kansas City, they could fall to fourth, right?
Yep.
But right now they're in second. So what do you think? Who you got next?
I'm going to now take the Cleveland Guardians.
All right, interesting.
I think they are the second best team in the division. I think they will finish in second place in the division behind my Minnesota Twinkies.
Yep.
So I'll go with the Guards.
All right, I'll take the Cubs next. And yeah, they're in second place right now. I see them in those top three spots. I don't see them dropping to fourth. So I feel pretty good about getting them there at second.
I'm going to do another safe pick here with the Toronto Blue Jays, who are in fourth place in the American League East. I think the Orioles and the Yankees are the two best teams. I don't think Boston, Toronto, or Tampa will jump them. I think those three teams could finish in really any order. I still think Boston is the worst of these three teams, but they have been such a bizarre anomaly so far that I don't feel comfortable. Like, I cannot in public face people and say, here's what's going to happen with the 2024 Boston Red Sox. For that reason, I'll take
do that on a day-to-day basis, right? Let alone for the next 4 months. Yeah, that's totally reasonable. I think, okay, so here's who's still on the board. Boston in third place, Tampa Bay in fifth place, Kansas City in second place, Minnesota in fourth place, Seattle in first place, Oakland in third place, Houston in fourth place, Milwaukee in first place, and San Diego in second place. So again, the reason these teams are on the board is essentially because we are looking at them now and we are worried that their standings could change by 2 or more spots. That is essentially why we're here. And with that in mind, I am going to select the Seattle Mariners here as a vote of confidence for my favorite team. I picked them to win the division. Their offense keeps getting worse. Their pitching keeps getting better. And I think they're going to be in the top 2. And so I got to stick with them here.
Give me the Oakland A's.
Okay.
Give me the Oakland A's, the third place Oakland A's, baby.
So you are picking them to not finish fifth, basically. And it's an official
better. Yes.
Okay.
They are better than the Angels.
You've already picked the Angels in last, so if you get both of those right, then that's fine. So, oh my gosh. At this point, here's my concern. I am like the Padres are in second.
Don't touch that. Don't touch that.
They scare me. They scare me as a crater, right? Like, so again, if I'm sticking with votes of how disrespectful is this to Milwaukee at this point? Like, I don't know. Again, like some of the, like they've been really impressive in some ways, and I still feel like kind of smoke and mirrors, and it's still close enough in the Central.
You know who they could really use? Yeah. The Brewers could use Corbin Burns.
They definitely could. I think that's a fair assessment. I'm going vote of confidence for Kansas City. I know we disagreed on this earlier this week. Could they fall to fourth? Absolutely. But I gotta stick with them. I really think they're pretty good. I mean, they just had like their best April in club history. Their run differential is fantastic. I just think their pitching is really good, and I think that they could finish in the top three. I just do. So again, I don't love a lot of these options left. That's kind of the point of this draft. But who are you going with here?
These options left are frankly kind of butt. I'm going to take the Padres, please. Second place in the NL West.
All right.
Yeah. Always believed in them.
Okay. All right. So we have 4 teams remaining on the board. Or sorry, 5 teams remaining on the board. Oh, boy. Okay. So again, Red Sox 3rd place, Rays 5th place, Twins 4th place, Brewers 1st place, Astros 4th place. I think I still have to go with Milwaukee here.
No, you took them.
I did. I took them. Milwaukee is my pick. They are my pick. They will finish in 1st place or hopefully 2nd.
Boston. As someone who's had Tommy John surgery, I know what it's like to be injured, to be hurt, and to have to fight through that type of pain, to succeed in this life and to thrive. And I see myself in these resilient Boston Red Sox. So 3rd place Red Sox, give them to me. Give them to me.
That's great. I will take the Rays in 5th pretty comfortably. Whoa. Because I am worried about the Rays. I guess I'm apparently more worried about them than the Astros, which according to the standings is not especially logical, as no, I guess they're both about 6 games back. So I think that's fine. I think I am more worried about Tampa Bay than Houston. So I'm going to go with Tampa Bay.
I have now been left with a decision that must prove how much I truly believe in the 2024 Minnesota Twins. There are 2 clubs left, the Astros and the Twins, both of whom are in 4th place. The Astros, the second you stop believing in them, is the second you get bit in the bum. There is no more final boss than these boys. And I am going to stand on business, Jordan, and I am going to take the Houston Astros over the Minnesota Twins. I believe in the Twinkies.
All right.
Okay, ride out. They're going to win that division. The Astros are not.
Okay.
And so I'll take Houston. You take Minnesota.
All right.
And that is our standings draft. We won't read back through it because that's going to take 25 minutes. And it's just a bunch of numbers and teams. Yes. We will keep track of this. And at the end of the year during the offseason, we will revisit it and determine once and for all who knows more ball, me or Jordan. Let's take a quick break. And when we return, we will be back with the good, the bad, and the Uggla. And welcome back to Baseball Barbacast. Jake Mintz Jordan Shusterman. It is that time of the week. The good, the bad, the Uggla. One thing good, one thing bad, and one thing, Dan Uggla, interesting, bizarre, unique, special. I will kick the rock to my partner in crime, Mr. Shusterman. What was good this week?
One of my favorite things to do about a month into the season, we just talked about these standings at the major league level. But something I like to do is look at some of the outlier teams at the minor league level. I know we don't focus too much on, winning. It's all about development. But what ultimately happens is you end up getting some pretty goofy results, some pretty silly records and outlandish run differentials. And I just need to give a shout out to the low A affiliate of the Seattle Mariners. The Modesto Nuts have begun their season 17-5 with a plus 88 run differential in 22 games, which, just for context, The best run differential in Major League Baseball right now belongs to the Kansas City Royals, Jake.
No, I get it.
At plus 50, Dodgers plus 49, Braves plus 48, and so on. But
Where
to
are the White
have
Sox at?
the White Sox are chilling at minus 84. Okay, that's great. That's a Rockies minus 75. So think about that. The Modesto Nuts in the low 8 California League have been White Sox bad levels of good. 17-5. It's just, I mean, they're scoring 8 runs a game. They have a team OPS of 890 and the lowest ERA in the league. They're chock full of just awesome prospects. Lazaro Montez hit a couple more home runs last night. And their pitching's awesome, and it's just fun. I mean, obviously I'm a Mariners fan, so I follow the system closely, but they do have the best run differential in minor league baseball, and that is definitively good.
Wow. My good is a man who is no longer injured. Kyle Bradish returned off the injured list this week. Bradish, who finished in the top 3 in Cy Young voting last year in the American League for the Baltimore Orioles, a breakout hurler in spring training. On day 1, the Orioles came out and said, yeah, Kyle Bradish's arm is not great. He has a UCL sprain. When we hear the words UCL sprain, UCL, the ulnar collateral ligament, usually that means the Tommy John is rolling down the tracks. And whenever a team says, we're going to take it slow and they're going to rehab it and we'll see how things go, we usually laugh at that and we say, break open the knife, fix your arm. It never works. Kyle Bradish, whatever they did, has for now worked. He came off the IL. I think he threw 4 2/3 in his first start back against the Yankees on Thursday. Most importantly, however, all of his fastball velocity, breaking ball spin stuff was similar to last year.
Looked like Kyle Bradish.
Looked like Kyle Bradish. So he wasn't coming back and throwing 90. He was coming back and throwing 94 or 95, right? So that is undeniably good. There have been so many injuries, and it is good to see a recovery without Tommy John surgery.
Hopefully he stays healthy. John Means coming back.
We're all going to die, Jordan. We're all going to die one day. We're all going to need Thomas Johnson.
John Means coming back for the O's tomorrow in Cincinnati. I will be there today. To see Swervin Irvin on the hill at Great American. My bad this week, Jake. 2 weeks ago, our friend and someone we admire in the media space, Jeff Passan, he wrote a story.
This is a great way to know, it's a great delineator of people who says Jeff Passan and who says Jeff Passan.
Brent Honeywell was calling him Jeff Passan when I saw him in Indy, and I was like, Brent, this is the 17th time I've told you. It's Passan. 2 weeks ago, Jeff came out with a story on Corey Seager, who was the most really, and your story on Corey Seager last year was great, Jake, but this was the most Corey Seager has said words introspectively to the media member. It was a great interview about his process and just what drives him, all these things great. Corey Seager is 4 for 45 since that story came out.
Oh no!
He's basically
he's never talking to the media again.
He just wrapped up, I think, the second worst month of his career. Underlying stuff isn't as bad. He's still hitting the ball decently hard. This is some unlucky stuff. However, what you just said is the joke that I was thinking too, which is that this man will never see a microphone for the rest of his life unless he is winning another World Series. I'm sorry, Jeff. This isn't meant to just give you crap and saying you jinxed him, but Corey Seager doesn't go for 4 for 45 very often. And when he does, I don't get to call Corey Seager bad very often. And while it would be a stretch to call him bad, I mean, he's been bad for 2 weeks. So sorry. Anyway, that's my bad. What's your bad?
What's my bad? I'm holding up a sign, which is always good podcasting content. All right. This sign, can you read it out loud, Jordan?
Oh, yes. This sign says, Mason Miller is not your trade chip. or perhaps trade Target, or perhaps
Target
I don't know what
is
the right
probably
lingo
better.
is.
Yeah, Target.
This is something we have talked about often. I'm honestly surprised that it didn't come up when he did this, when he pitched and blew everyone away at Yankee Stadium. One of the things that annoys us the most about Yankee fans, and I understand this happens in other sports with like the Lakers.
I don't want to bring this up. I want to be very clear. Okay.
Yes.
Orioles people were doing this.
Oh,
just as much as Yankees people.
Any fan is.
I went on.
Yes.
Yes. Go ahead.
Yes. No, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. I'm just using this as a lead-in. This is something we've talked about in the past. The concept where Yankees fans just assume that everyone who's good will eventually end up on the Yankees drives us crazy, even though sometimes it ends up being true. However, that just brings us to the general sentiment of player does well on not so good team. Now they only exist in the context of when can we trade for him? Can we let these A's fans, these poor A's fans, just have something for once?
One
Please.
thing. Have one thing. And it would be one thing if Mason Miller was a free agent at the end of the year or at the end of next year or at the end of the following year. He is not a free agent until after 2029. Okay? If they do not trade him, they will have Mason Miller theoretically for 2 years in Vegas. Okay? This is not... If you had to pick one player on the A's major league roster who would be on the team,
he's past Zach Geloff.
Yes, it is Mason Miller. Now, how long can someone throw 103 is a very valid question. All right, but just because the A's have a good pitcher does not mean that they are going to trade them. Okay, everyone. Yeah. I got asked this yesterday. I did a radio hit for in Baltimore with this guy Glenn Clark, and they were like, "What about Mason Miller?" I was like, "No." Tanner Scott, maybe. But
Tanner
Mason
Scott,
Miller,
yes, fine.
Great.
He's a free agent. He's on the worst team in the league, and he's a free agent at the end of the year. The A's, not the worst. Hey, you know what? Ryan Presley. Maybe you should trade for Ryan Presley. Because who's below the A's in the standings? The Houston Astros. The Houston Astros, if they still suck in 2 months, they're going to be trading some guys off.
You know what, Jordan? The A's should trade for Ryan Presley.
Yes.
Baby.
They should trade for Verlander.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
This is something that happens in European soccer just because of the way the hierarchy works, right? Totally. If there's a good player on any team that's not super big, oh, wow. Burnley has a sturdy center back. He's on Chelsea tomorrow. And the problem is that usually does happen in European soccer, right? The just matriculation happens. But this just really ticked me off. Just let Mason Miller be on the A's for now. And look, the A's have not done themselves the favor of earning the benefit of the doubt, considering they trade every good player away. I understand that. But there's a reason for this. There's a reason why these things happen.
This exact same dynamic existed with Alexis Diaz a couple of years ago. And it was like, he's a rookie. Like, again, same thing. It's like, what? The Reds are awful. Why would you trade Alexis? Come on. The Mets fans are like, oh, well, you just trade for him and put him with his brother. Here, we'll give you our 29th ranked prospect. Yeah. Because Alexis, it's like, no, that's not how this works. Please relax.
This is not worse. The worst thing when you're a fan, I've talked about this before, when you're a fan of a bad team and you play a good team and a fan of the good team poo-poos you and patronizes you. This used to happen with Trey Mancini and the Orioles all the time. You know, other fans would be like, Trey Mancini's a good little player. He's a good little player. It's like, no, he's a real man and he's good. He's good. He's good. Right? Like, thankfully, Mason Miller
good for my crappy team.
You can't really call a guy throwing 103 a good little player. You know what I mean? It kind of doesn't work.
He's a nice arm.
He's a nice arm. He's a player. Who is that guy right now? Right? Who in the big leagues is a pretty good? Is it like CJ Abrams? You know, CJ Abrams.
No, he's like a little too good, and the Nats aren't bad enough. I mean, it's like, who would be a version of that, like on the White Sox right now? Like Gavin Sheets. But again, not a little player. No. Not a little player. Do you have one for the Marlins?
I think it would be Brenton Doyle on the Rockies, who's hitting a little bit more this year than you might expect.
Yeah.
I think it's got to be a Rocky because the Rockies are so utterly irrelevant. Right?
Yeah. Jared Triolo was kind of tracking in this direction. All right.
Good little player.
No more. Let's get to the
Rockies.
We've made people.
Oh, dude. Brent Doyle has a 121 OPS plus. Brent Doyle is a good little player. That is exactly what he is.
Platinum glove. He's people know about Brent Doyle.
The Trey Mancini Good Little Player Award.
Yeah. That's email us, baseballbarbercast@gmail.com. Let us know who we're missing. Okay, we've made people wait long enough. My Uggla is not the bees. Your Uggla is the bees. My Uggla is just, let's do 30 seconds on this. Pete Crow Armstrong tried something in the Cubs-Mets game the other day that, again, this game's been played for so long, and we're saying stuff that we've never seen. He slides into second, and as a kind of strategy to not fully overslide the base.
I don't think there was any strategy involved.
Okay. So do you think this was entirely
premeditated?
Accidental?
So
okay, I think I agree with you.
About four steps before the base, he removes his helmet for some reason, slides into the base, and instead of putting his hand on the base to hold it as one usually would, because the helmet is in his hand, he maintains control of the base through the helmet. He is touching the helmet is touching the base. He is not directly touching the base. Tag is placed on him well after he reaches the base. He is called safe. Later, Major League Baseball informed the public, I believe through Steve Gelbs, as these things are, MLB through Steve Gelbs, thank you, Steve, that PCA should have been called out because he was not on the base.
Yes. Which is, the reason this is Uggla is, one, it's like, I've never seen this before. Whether it was intentional or not, it is good that MLB clarified this, because what a loophole. You could extend your, we've seen this just with like sliding mitts, right? The guys that run with their oven mitts, and like how you could reach the base, however milliseconds faster because your hand is extended. If you got a whole helmet to reach, man, think about all the possibilities for sliding and let alone you're running home and you take the helmet off and you basically reach around the catcher and you just kind of tap the base, tap home plate with your helmet. Yeah, that's clearly not kosher. And I'm glad MLB told, sorry, PCA. If this was intentional, very creative, but it ain't happening again.
Running the bases with an enormous pole vault pole like Mondo Duplantis and just reaching all the way out and like touching home plate from halfway down the line.
Shouts out Mondo. All right, let's get to the grand finale of this Friday edition. You've all been waiting for it. Jake, a wise man once said, not the bees, not the bees, not the bees. And that's what the D-backs and Dodgers said at the start of this game. And 2 hours later, they got to play their baseball game, Jake.
There was a swarm.
But only thanks to the heroics of one man. One handsome beekeeper.
Big swarm of bees on the net, on the top of the net behind home plate at Chase Field in Arizona. Understandably delays the game. The beekeeper in question explains afterwards in an interview with, I believe, Arizona Today.
He did a lot of interviews after this game.
Arizona Family. My apologies, Arizona Family. Local news. If the ball had ricocheted off of the backstop and agitated the bee swarm, all hell could have broken loose. Remember, if you don't bother those bees, is what you tell a 7-year-old child. You don't bother those bees, they ain't gonna bother you. Problem is, I don't think the Dodgers and Diamondbacks could have forewent a foul ball off the net on purpose in order to save the fans sitting behind home plate. So understandably, this game was delayed. It was explained also by this beekeeper why these bees were congregating there. They were flying around all day. They needed somewhere to rest together. They didn't have a hive because they were a breakaway hive. Okay, there's a new queen leading all the workers. Rogue. They went rogue, okay? And so they were Jay chilling in Cedar Rapids on top of the net at Chase Field. Matt Hilton, I believe is his name. He is called. He works for Blue Sky Pest Control. Huge day for the Blue Sky Pest Control marketing department. No free ads except for this one. He rolls in about an hour and change later in a Blue Sky Pest Control button-down shirt and a big bee hat and what looked to be a super vacuum that just sucked up all the bees into a container, just a container of bees. Where does that go? Do the bees die in there? Are they released somewhere else?
This is very, very important for people who follow this. This is in Fabian Ardai's story in The Athletic. According to Hilton, the swarm was neutralized by a non-pesticidal solution sucked into a vacuum and released at an undisclosed location off-site. I like how they're
Stadium.
They're like, hey, Matt. If we give you a couple grand, will you drive this over to Dodger Stadium and mess with the Dodgers for this Brave series?
Please do it before either a Glass Now or Yamamoto start. Don't waste these on Landon Knack, okay?
But by the way, this was it's funny. Like Jordan Montgomery was scratched because of
that's
this
what
game.
I'm saying. Yeah, because it happened right before first pitch after he had already warmed up, and they didn't want to have him cool down and then warm him back up. It's so funny. Okay, so then he sucks up all the bees. Now, the one thing I thought about truthering this at one point. Okay, now my take was going to be
staged.
No, not staged. Blue Sky Pest Control paid for this to have all the bees up there to delay the game.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Those are the people who think that Ippei or that Ohtani was in on it with Ippei, right? These are not only was there a second shooter in Dallas, there was a third shooter, whatever. Yeah. Tupac's still alive. My truther take was going to be the video of Mr. Hilton being lowered down on the crane platform thing. As he's doing that and celebrating the moment, there are bees flying around him up there. There are still many bees that were unneutralized.
Are you saying, am I hearing this correctly? Are you saying Job's not finished?
I thought Job was not finished. However, upon more research, you can't get them all. You can't catch them all.
No, come on. Matt's doing his best.
Because once you suck them up, some of them were like, whoa, I'm not going to an undisclosed location, please. I don't know. I don't want to be deployed to Dodger Stadium, so I'm going to fly around. And so there were some that are still buzzing around. Once you remove, the enough of the bees, they just kind of disperse into the air, never to be seen or beat again. Mr. Hilton then was able to throw out the first pitch of the game, which was delightful. He relished the moment. Wow, what a handsome guy. Just hilarious. He looks like a young, hot Mr. Incredible. He looks like a young, hot Mr. Incredible. Yeah.
Yes. This is the real takeaway here is, listen, I can't speak to what the average beekeeper who works for a pest control company is actually like. So maybe this is misguided. So I apologize if this is totally unfair. However, this is more about just giving credit to Mr. Hilton, because the odds of this man being this good looking and charismatic and comfortable randomly doing his job in front of tens of thousands of people who are literally waiting. They have all paid money to come see something that is now dependent on you to happen.
Think about it this way. If it was 6:58 at a Dodgers Diamondbacks game and the PA said, we now have an hour and a half delay, Jake and Jordan are going to podcast. Okay. I would be nervous to do that job.
That's a tough crowd. That's why he crushed this, because when he arrived, he understood the assignment.
Yes.
Literally and figuratively and every other way, right?
He
rolled in and he was like, there goes my hero. I am him. He went up to those bees and said, I'm him. And he got enough of them sucked up and he came on down and he threw out a first pitch.
Jordan,
and for one moment, Shohei Ohtani was not the most incredible person in the building that he was in.
Could Shohei do this? Didn't think so.
No,
Jordan,
I don't think so.
The bees were a problem, but you know what was a bigger problem? Matt Hilton.
Oh man! All right. Well, I hope that was worth people waiting a few days for us to talk about.
One more thing. In the interview after, Arizona Family shouts out, asks him, "Are you a baseball fan?" And it's always funny when someone who's clearly not a baseball fan, who just did a baseball stadium related task or baseball game task, gets asked that question and they have to say no in a kind way, right? And Matt Hilton essentially says, my mother-in-law she always has the Diamondbacks game on. Great. No notes. And then also, the reporter says, you had to throw out the first pitch today. How was that? Well, I've never done anything like that before. You've never done that? You've never sucked up a enormous swarm of bees behind home plate? Wow, that's crazy.
There's so many great quotes in all of these stories. The director or the ballpark ops guy at the dbacks gave this quote, in his Fabian story. Time was of the essence, as Tuesday's game was very close to being postponed if the issue wasn't addressed quickly. Rock said, right there, that was a tense moment. It's like, dun, dun, dun. Here comes Matt.
I loved this too because no one's at fault. No one.
No.
This is a great example of a hero arrives and saves the day, but there's no villain. And if the bees are released back to undisclosed location, everything's fine. No one gets hurt.
All right. We did it. Thank you all for listening to this Friday edition of Baseball Barbacast. I thought this was a decent episode. If you liked this episode, leave us a rating, leave us a review. Tell us what we missed about this bee-related story. Tell us how stupid we are for picking certain teams in the standings legitimacy draft. Leave us a rating wherever you listen to your podcasts. We really appreciate that. You can email us at baseballbarbacast@gmail.com. Thank you to Andrew Hartz for producing this episode. And thank you, Jake, for recording it with me.
Of course. So if you go to Blue Sky Pest Control's website, there are 3 tabs at the top: pest control, termite control, and scorpion control, which is so funny because you wouldn't have that in Connecticut. And then also there's a banner on the site that says official service provider for the Arizona Diamondbacks in Chase Field, which I have to wonder, was that up there last week? Also, when you see that type of thing on websites like this that provide a very random service, I always think, okay, you're the official pest control provider for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Does that matter? I'm the official.
Oh, it sure does.
Oh, yeah, baby. So shouts out to Blue. Oh, they also do mosquito, rodent, bed bugs, and Jordan. They do bee removal. Okay. We offer full service beehive removal, bee control, bee removal in Phoenix and the greater Phoenix metro area. We're the bee removal Phoenix experts for you. If you have a swarm of bees around your home or ball yard, doesn't say that, leave the bees alone and keep other people away until trained technicians have been called, like Matt Hilton.
Yeah.
To handle that issue. Okay.
Well, Jake.
Make sure you do that.
You know what we always say.
What do you say?
No free ads unless your branch officer is extremely good looking. Thank you all for listening to Baseball Barbacast. We will talk about the weekend on Monday. We're not even going to bother previewing it. Everyone have a wonderful Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we'll talk to you next week.